Welcome to Lucid Dreaming in the Cube of Space with the Alchemical Cabala. This week, we've descended into the below face of the Cube of Space, which is the foundation, sometimes called the underworld or the subconscious. The below side of the cube is the subconscious, and it's also the prima materia of all form. And this is why we have the high priestess at the bottom of the cube as the foundation. And of course, the moon, you saw it as the foundation of the tree of life. So we've descended here on the northwest edge corner from above to below along the current of equilibrium and justice. Now, since we've come into the below on the cube, on the outer edges, there's only one outer current available to us from this point. Can someone please simply point out the direction and the path that we'll now enter? We've come from above to below down
Deceiver.
justice. Thank you, Jesse. The deceiver. Yes, exactly. Is everyone clear on that? It's the only outer current available to us because the hermit's coming and merging with it. So that's it. We have to go this way or make ourselves hurry back up to the self-conscious and wake up, sort of. So this is the current of Ayin, which in Hebrew means the eye. Now, just notice how in dreams, seemingly impossible things occur all the time. And it's strange that we accept these occurrences and appearances without question in our dreams. In this course, we're training our self-conscious mind to, to practice questioning all that we perceive while we are in the waking state, so that we can start to build our strength to break this habit. And it is a habit. We have this habit of basically just accepting what we call reality as only that which occurs to us through appearances and our particularly our vision, whether we call it our physical vision or even we call it the mind's eye's vision in dreams. This state of consciousness which is basically the state of sleeping, is the state for a considerable portion of the world most of the time. So, in short, this state that we're discussing that accepts all the images as real, it's one where the self-conscious mind is ignorant or ignoring the superconscious intelligence that we all live, move, and have our being in, and accepting what we call reality as simply what appears to be. And this is an unconscious sleep or a trance, which is shown very clearly in key 15, which is our current key for the week. So, a good thing to ponder next time you watch a television show that you're really into or a movie that you're really into is watch your automatic reactions. So, do you tense up? Like, do your muscles tense up when you're watching these erratic and dramatic scenes? Do you feel uh, afraid? Do you laugh at the pixels, the zeros and the ones? We all do this, and it's perfectly normal and it's fine. And we have to learn to be able to wake up from this habitual state of taking appearances as the whole reality, which is what the tarot specializes in. So, that said, everyone take some deep breaths and just let go of everything that is not useful to you. With relaxed focus, please focus on the key before you and try to do it in a way as if you've never seen it, this imagery before. And please unmute yourselves one at a time and simply share what occurs to you.
Just something I noticed. I guess really it's a question here. Is that on the? It looks like there's a pyramid on the lower right hand corner of the card, but the lines on that pyramid,
Yeah.
because I see the eye on
Mhm.
there,
Yeah.
but it looked, yeah, I didn't know if that was like an error or not, or if it's like trying to mimic, on the back of the dollar bill, right? The
Yeah,
floating,
sure.
the pyramid with
Right.
the thing. So yeah,
Good question.
yeah.
Um,
I don't
okay.
know. Yeah, I was just curious. That's all. But
No,
yeah,
it's a good
I'll.
observation. And something I'll point out to this, is um the one of the first perceptions we have in vision where we start to question what we're perceiving, especially when we're young, I think is when we start to get there's a name for it, I can't remember, but when we see like train tracks or a road going
Hmm.
a certain way
Hmm.
and it comes and gets narrower and narrower,
Convergence point kind of thing.
such a curiosity to the mind because the way our
Yeah.
we process that, it takes us a while to learn that perspective, right?
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah, just kind of just a quick noticing. That's all. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll back on you.
Hmm.
I'm seeing how their chains are very loose, and traditionally we've always said, well, they can take them off if they want, but I'm seeing that they actually put them on themselves. So there's a real element of um, volunteering the experience.
Interesting.
So they've voluntarily put themselves in bondage, which goes with Saturn, right? Saturn's
Mm-hmm.
limiting borders,
Mm-hmm.
boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always seen like a negative connotation with this card, but I'm beginning to see positive connotations. I haven't thought about it enough really to articulate it very well, but it's like when we Somebody said that in order to get your freedom, you have to first be a slave.
Interesting.
And and what they mean by that is like, going to medical school, like your kids,
Yeah.
Eli. It's like medical school is slavery. I mean,
Yes.
that's torture, slavery, and
Yeah.
abuse.
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
for a long time.
but for a long time. And yeah, so they have to that's the kind of training we have to go through, and we voluntarily go into it.
Hmm.
You see, just
Yes.
like these two, they
Yes.
voluntarily submitted themselves to restriction, constriction, constraints,
Hmm.
just like we do when we, learn meditation or the tree of life or tarot. We, we
You're breaking up a little
humans,
bit.
that's
Hmm.
that's slavery.
Yep.
So anyway, did you say
Very good.
the my audio is breaking up?
Yeah, you're better now.
Okay. I've always wanted to be better.
You're coming through. All right. That's those are really interesting points. I appreciate you bringing those up. Yes. So really, really interesting point to master something, you must be a slave first. So yeah, I mean, extreme discipline leads to greater liberation and freedom. But this is self-discipline, right?
Right.
And these people are these self-conscious, subconscious. The persons here seem to be pretty fairly content with their situation at the moment.
Yeah, well, another thing about this though is like when you study something, you can't really take the time to analyze it. You
Hmm.
have to just learn it, like in
Yeah,
medical school or like with
yeah,
mathematics. You just have to learn it.
yeah.
And I think that's getting at the positive message of this card because
Hmm.
it's all Saturn, it's all Saturn.
Yes, it's all limitation.
Yeah.
Limitation,
But
limitation, limitation.
and so what I'm seeing is the benefit of
Yeah,
limitation, voluntary limitation. That's
right.
self-discipline. That's
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
There's another way to look at it though, because if we were to invert the colors, I did this. Uh, it's all blue, which is Jupiter. Really, that's the expansive.
Which is
That's
the opposite of Saturn,
the total
or
opposite.
its
Yeah.
balancing aspect. Yes. Okay.
And if you look at the key in that light, you can think of that chain um, as if it's chained to a doorway, like a darkened doorway.
Mm-hmm.
So so really, the limitations, the things that we avoid are opportunities for growth. So if we look at um, anything that we avoid or anything that we don't want to face, it made
Yep.
me think of Moana. I don't know if you guys have seen Moana, but the
Mhm.
whole movie is takes place on an island, and no one wants to leave the island because there's this dangerous shoal,
Yeah.
and they're afraid of leaving because you'll die, essentially. So the whole
Yeah.
movie is kind of about this passing that threshold or going beyond what's been avoided, and and then you can take that conceptually to our beliefs, our assumptions, the paradigm, the model that we view reality itself through,
Mm-hmm.
essentially every aspect of our being. This becomes a Jupiter key when you look at it from that point of view, which,
Interesting.
which is totally. And here's the other thing: is like the key is showing you our ignorance. So when
Yes.
you see your ignorance, it's an opportunity to grow. So really, this is not the the shadow always points to the real thing, right? So like as much as it's
Mhm.
a Saturn key, it's just as much a Jupiter key. That's kind of what I was getting out of it.
Okay. Interesting.
I was getting from this that we have two people who are in extreme discomfort and doing nothing about it.
Hmm.
You got the fire behind him lighting his tail. And to me, it's an old story of, it sometimes takes a person getting to the end, like stuck under a freeway overpass, drunk and foodless and no friends. And they go, oh, this is not working out for me. I think I can find something better. But right here, I'm seeing the depths, the deeps that people go to before they
Yes.
change.
Yes.
The real rug has to be pulled out. And right here, they're not doing anything yet. He's got his hand out to her for comfort or for whatever reason, and she's not reaching toward him. Her
She
hands
says,
are to herself, and he's on fire in the back.
right, right.
Of
And
course.
she has the grapes, which you could think of, alcohol, whatever, something
Mm-hmm.
else going on there.
Yeah.
But it's like behind even the worst scenario
Hmm.
is the creator, because the goatee is God,
Hmm.
but the star is upside down.
Hmm.
So because normally if it's manifest accurately, the point would be up. So you have, even in the worst case scenario, you think all is over. There's still nothing but God.
Excellent point. Yes.
And those fiery red eyes, which are
Right,
supposed
right.
to be scary, but
Yep.
basically it's the eyes of activity. If you start getting active in your life,
Hmm.
you have to move out. But they make the creature look creepy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not.
Right,
It's like God in front of your face going, "Hi, got your attention yet?"
right.
And sometimes that's what it takes to
Yeah.
change. But these
Well, they
guys aren't
say,
changing.
you're right. They say people generally won't change until they've had enough. Till
Yeah,
when they've had enough suffering, they'll say, "Okay, I've had enough.
I'm
I'll,
going to
I'm good."
change my mind. Everything is about changing our mind.
Yes.
It's all about the mind, and everything is mind. So you
Excellent.
change your mind, and the opposite of this will show up.
Very nice.
I just wanted to say, I'm looking at the card and I'm thinking like when we're born, made in the image and likeness of God, right? And then we come into the world, we go onto the west side of the cube, we get poked with needles and sent home with wonky parents, and then all the society's conditioning starts, and you have your
Yeah.
experiences, which kind of besides having the amnesia of coming in knowing who we are, we're born into this society, so we've got to work past society's definitions, our parents' definitions, and we've got to be able to take those chains off, because we're just going to circle around around the west side, and we don't even know that there's so much more to life than what's just right in front of us, that there's just so much more, um, and it has to do with discipline and taking those chains off. And in order to do that, it requires, really discovering who you are. And that's where we have the experiences. To every experience we have is trying to get us to look at ourselves and say, hey, do you remember who you are? And then we just, we wallow in it and we keep the chains on instead of taking the chains off and becoming the godlike human being that we are all born to be. So
Very well said. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, I want to reiterate what Mariah was saying is remember, the first commandment is Hero Israel. The Lord thy God is one. There's only one thing, one life expressing itself through us, through different levels of our whole tot- total being. It's good to remember because when we make two, then we get the perceived polarities, dualities, etc.
Just a couple of quick things with regards to this key and kind of what's being shared. First, real briefly, just kind of thinking of the inversion. I think Jessica was touched on that for a
Hmm.
moment, and it's just like, oh yeah, the inversion is key, which you made sure to pass, like the lever is key, or just like the
Yep.
same everything. It's just, hey, here's the the flip side, if you will, or a different mask, if you will, of the
Mhm.
same type of thing. Another thing too with regards to the man kind of extended out, reaching over to woman right there. I see, like, yeah, it's got the tail with, it looks like grapes. One could also say eggs, right? Because I
Yeah.
was thinking of the whole,
Oh yeah, yeah. Wine, women, and
material.
song.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, like here's the 400 you got, and thinking it's just material thing and all that type of business. But really, what I wanted to just touch on, it was something I heard probably a couple days ago too. Um, but it was actually something that Michael was sharing with regards to like the discipline, and that a couple of folks have touched on it regarding the discipline aspect and how loose those chains are on around the necks of the two people there, and because one part of it is like was just being shared of like, okay, this liberation from this thing, and okay, it's not there, but it's like, yeah, but what if they also went towards, this thing too, going like, okay, I'm voluntarily choosing for this window of
Yep.
time
Okay.
to put this chain on me to be yoke, whatever which way, whatever bind, and the word is coming up, it's like binding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
Right.
bind myself for the next hour to this desk with this book to study how to
Okay.
become a
Right.
doctor, right? Or just whatever, or
Yep.
a nurse or whatever it may be. And so just kind of that whole thing with regards to um discipline and refinement. Um, and so I share that because from the angle of like meditation, for example, right? There's 'cause I say it because there's a wide variety and assortments of how to meditate and all these different, there
Yep.
there's a whole array, right? There are some there's a large number of meditation styles where it's, I mean, like Raja Yoga, right? Like super rigid. Like you hold this position and you do not move. You do not blink, you don't move, you don't even move, like nothing whatsoever. Or I'm thinking of like some of the I know there's tons of images out there of like certain styles of like Zen meditation where you just see a row sitting, they're 3 inches from the wall, staring at one swatch of color, and
Mm.
there's no movement whatsoever. And you have
Mm.
your, master walking back, and if you move even an inch,
Whack.
it's the whack exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I share that because that's kind of what with this, where it's like, well, what if someone is voluntarily putting themselves in that space of bondage for a window of time to learn, to grow, to refine, to discipline, to whatever it may be,
Mhm. Mhm.
for that. Because one other aspect and angle, where I'm coming from that, is that just the very nature of the the card itself, right, with the figure, whatever this figure is with the
Yeah.
you know mix and match of different
Yeah.
animals, right? That we can discern. But just with the fact that it's it's something where, yeah, and I actually may just stop on the discipline part because there's another aspect to it I'm still kind of fleshing out, but really the main thing is just that part of the discipline
Yep.
aspect,
Right.
and just how and again, right, with Saturn, right, being this
Yeah.
just here's a boundary for a period of time. But the key thing I would share with that is that you are choosing said boundary, right? That you're like, okay, these are the boundaries I'm having for this window
Yes.
of time to do this thing. And the other aspect I'll say, and I'll end it here, and it was something was shared a couple of days ago, was it was from a comedian, Josh Johnson, who had shared, he was like, art can save your life, but it'll never be your salvation. It's like, you have to, and the key thing that he said was, no one no one escaped their chains of bondage by forgetting they weren't there.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah. So it's
You gotta,
being conscious, becoming conscious of
yes,
what we are doing, right? And what
exactly. Yeah. And
the patterns that we are in.
yeah. Yeah. Cause it's like, you can't, the only way one can even, or to even have a discussion about, putting on or removing chains is first, you know, identifying the fact that, like, these are chains. This is what chains do. They
Yep.
bind, and they can, they serve
Okay.
functions in its own way. So yeah, just that little thing that was coming up. But yeah, I'll stop sharing at that point. So
Thank
thanks.
you, Easy. All right, we're gonna have to move forwards.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to add that there you have the white goatee, which represents the creator.
Oh yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
God is ever present there too.
Okay,
Yeah.
God,
No.
it's not just that God is ever present.
Hmm.
We're immortals.
Hmm.
Our
Yeah,
spirit
we're
is
doing it to
immortal.
ourselves. Like, I guess is the way to.
Yeah, our spirit is immortal, and
Yeah.
this is forever.
Hmm.
So you can do
Mm.
this for a
Hmm.
long time before you
Hmm.
Long
recognize.
time. Right.
And,
It's
Before you're
and
like, okay, enough.
yeah,
it's to what you pointed out earlier, where it's just like, okay, well, I guess the word that was coming from me was like, until you cry uncle. It's like you can keep
Yep.
going until it's like,
Right.
okay,
yeah,
recognizing,
Yes.
okay, I've had enough, and then go from
yes.
there. So,
And as we each come in, our soul decides what we're going to work on.
mhm. Yep.
Excellent.
So everybody's different. Every single person has what they're working on. So what you can judge another person's doing, and you go, oh my God, that's what they're working on. So your compassion and your understanding is where you have to come from, and not judge, because that judgment comes back on you. So we look at this. This card is very expressive
Yeah.
to the conundrum of our being, and yet we are eternal, and yet we have our creator to help us out
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
always.
Well said. Who remembers what the eagle's associated with in the tarot and astrology? Which sign?
Scorpio.
Thank you, Nancy. Exactly right. Scorpio. So we see these eagle legs really clutching onto this two-dimensional appearance, right? And it's in the lower aspect of this conglomerate, this conglomeration of animals. Okay. Thank you, everyone, but we have to move forwards. Thank you all for your insights. So I'm going to repeat this, and I'll put this little slide up again. It's been said that the unregenerated intellect is an intellect that simply does not recognize that there is an intelligence and power greater than itself. This is another way of saying that the self-conscious mind has yet to be renewed or recognize the superconscious. Ayin, and this path in the Book of Formation, is called the renewing intelligence. Behold, I make all things new. This unregenerated state, again, is where the self-conscious is simply isn't aware that there is this super intelligence that it can call on, that it can rely on. And to point in that direction, ask the self-conscious to contemplate what is it that has supported you for all eternity, that we are here right now. In this key, the self-conscious and subconscious appear to have their attention and focus outward. And like Christina said, we are born into these things, okay? We're born into these forms, these animal bodies, and the countless ages of stories that we've told for countless years, eons, about what is by appearances. On the tree, the path of Ayin connects the sphere of Hod, which we know on the simple tree is
The
eighth.
intellect.
Perfect. Thank you, Jesse. The intellect. Okay. So it connects it to the heart, beauty, Tiferet, which is the true vision of the heart, the real. Now, what does this current connect on the cube? On the cube of space, the same current of Ayin connects the western face of the world of appearances in third dimensional to the below or subconscious. This is a very fitting place or conjunction for this intelligence. The whole key shows our unregenerated mind. And I'm thinking it just, what's the famous quote in the Bible? Let this mind that was in Christ be in us, that we may be renewed. So it's the light, right? Now, understand, our unregenerated nature is very, very often simply just our animal instincts and automatic consciousness that, again, we were born into in the mass mind. Now, don't be hard on yourself for being this way because the animal consciousness has evolved where it has to take all of these appearances seriously. Because if it didn't, good chance it might get eaten, right? This is what we're born into. But because we are much more than animals, we are evolving through this kingdom as human beings and beyond, right? The Pythagoras triangle, right, shows this. The five kingdoms, with the fifth kingdom coming in our spiritual evolution, which is the superconscious. So simply recognizing our animal drives and nature goes a long way to help us transmute or channel these very powerful energies into higher states within our inner vehicles. I think Jason Lauderhan talks about if you watch gorillas and people, physiologically, there's not a huge difference, but spiritually, there is a pretty big difference. And this is where we're trying to become more conscious, to wake up. And we do it individually, and that spreads out into the whole and assists others to wake up. Remember last week we talked about one of the main themes in the tarot is the raising of the Scorpio force, right? Well, we see that Scorpio like grasping, right? Really clinging to a two-dimensional appearance. And is again, it's just our animal nature, which would be fine if that's all we were, but we're not. We're human and evolving beyond into our spiritual humanity. So that animal nature is why in the 3x7 layout, we see the strength key above the deceiver. So when you immerse yourself in this imagery this week, you might, the more you do, you might notice it invokes really deep laughter. There's mirth associated with this key. And sometimes it invokes fearful patterns that we have either believed to be so or just taken on unconsciously. This is sometimes called the shadow, right? It's really, really, really important to remember to laugh and to not take it all way too seriously, which is hard to do with all this heavy stuff, right? This is lead of Saturn, but it's all perspective. So if you find yourself getting too heavy, put on some comedies. You'll find when you have deep laughter, I'm talking like gut, like you're like crying, like you wish you could laugh once a day, right? If we could do that, we would probably just ascend. But that genuine, authentic, oh my God, I'm crying, you're killing me, laughter. What that does is it breaks up the patterns of fear in the mind. Mariah was talking about how all is mind. Absolutely correct. So with that, I'm going to share a couple of my favorites of from Gary Larson. You know what they say in hell, right? I hate it here. It's like whispering to this guy. That's a good one. Okay, I got a couple more. Larson is amazing. Okay, let's see. Yeah, here's a good one. So he's in training here. He's like, third one you've lost this month, Edgar. You got to stop believing these guys when they say they're just stepping out to use the restroom. Okay.
Save for being deceived.
I like this one too. This is hell's really slipping. And this is one of my favorites. This is the last one here. Uh, one of my favorite Larsons. I don't know why, but this comes to me from time to time. Here it is.
He's whistling.
Yes, he is. He's perfectly fine. He is just he's in his own space, right? Whether intentional or not, he's definitely there,
Yeah, we're not reaching
he's
that
not suffering, right?
He's doing his thing.
He's
Very happy.
doing his thing. He's like, yeah,
That's
I
the
love that.
really, really unregenerated intellect.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Well said. Okay. So, all right. Again, I want to stress that if things get heavy, or even if you're experiencing the difficulties of life, right? Illnesses, etc. There's a lot of evidence that says watching comedies is one of the best things you can do for your health. Laughter. Paul Case talks about one of the lines is talking about the priests in Egypt, that they would every morning go forth at the sunrise and wash their hearts with laughter. Super important. It really does renew us and helps us break up those patterns. So here is the tatva with Ayin that you can use to alternate for your nightly core practice if you wish to, if you like the alternating colors, which I find very effective. But do use the deceiver key and keep a journal and restate it is your intention to wake up in your dreams. If you find anything that you might want to face within yourself fear-wise, just this is a great opportunity for that. And then lastly, I'm going to leave you with this image. You might wish to just take this image and contemplate it this week. You might find that interesting. Thank you all for your light and participation. This concludes this portion of Ayin, lucid dreaming, and the cube of space. The floor is now open for any questions or comments.